Hi everyone, welcome back to Ready Resto. So it's a gloomy, rainy day here in England, so in the garage for this job, just trying to stay dry and trying to keep the work going on this car. So what I've decided to do is I've decided to change the head gasket in on the MG anyway, because I had the parts for it. And what I want to try and do is I want to try and tune the carbs, just to try and get it running a little bit more reliably and starting reliably. It does start, don't get me wrong, but it does take a couple of cranks. So yeah, what I want to try and do is just try and get it running as healthy as possible. So while I'm at it anyway, I just thought, okay, let's just change the head gasket. I've dropped the oil, I've dropped the coolant in there as well, put everything fresh back in again along with the oil filter as well. And then at least I know fluids have been done. Once I've got the head off as well, I can give it a deeper inspection, just check that nothing else is leaking, no other places for oil, etc. on there. Then at least we know engine's super healthy, good to go. We can get that back and running super sweet again. So to do this job, it's not a time heavy job to do. You got to do a few bits and pieces. So to do it, what we need to do is we need to drop the coolant first, because you will need to get the thermostat off as well. And then what you don't want to do is when you're moving the head around, you don't want coolant falling into the cylinders, because obviously coolant can be corrosive as well if it's not in the right place. So you don't want that to get into your cylinders and sort of calcify or get hard at the same time as well and damage your pistons. So we'll need to do that. What you can do is you can actually leave your spark plugs in place. I will just check them just to check that they are healthy. I haven't actually taken the spark plug at all from this engine since I've had the car. So what I'd recommend doing is labeling your HT leads so you know where they go. So obviously good news on mine is it's already been done, so I know it's got the numbering on there. So when I put it back in, plug everything back into the same place. Yeah, so we can just drop that. What you would need to do is you will need to take off this, which is, I believe, the valve for the heater control for the car. So that will need to come off as well. So now you could just take the cable, the pipe off here and leave that on. Mine, I've got a lot of pink residue on there, which suggests that that is doing a little bit of leaking on that front. So I'm going to take mine off anyway, just to check it out, give it a clean, see if I can find out where it's leaking from. Because that's also not ideal. I know for a fact this car, I put pink coolant into the car, so I know that for a fact is new coolant that's leaking out of there. When it comes to actually removing the carburetors as well, you need to take the carburetor and the exhaust manifold off. So that's the exhaust manifold there, and then if you can see just about there, that's the carburetor mounting onto the same sort of nuts as well, bolts as well. So you need to just take the nuts off for that. So again, just be very careful when you're removing the bolts and nuts on this. You don't want to lose anything, and you certainly don't want to drop anything into the engine compartment either, into the actual engine itself either. So you want to be very gentle with this and take your time. Don't rush this job at all. Cool, so let's get stuck in. First things first, we'll need to drop the coolant. So what I'm going to do is get under the car, get a pan under there, and then yeah, I can show you how that works. Okay, so to drain the coolant, obviously the cap off at the top there, and then underneath the car itself you should have a tap like that, or sometimes you might just have a little a nut at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open that tap and then allow it to just drain out into the pan. So I'm actually using an old pot over here. I'm hoping it's got enough volume in there, but hey, we'll find out. If not, might need to do a little bit of mopping up of the floor. But yeah, so just going to undo that on yours, and then that should drain straight out. Okay, sorry for the angle there. I know I have to turn it sideways slightly, but the best angle I can get to try and get this from under the car. So yeah, looks like I've locked out with the pan. It's just the right amount of volume for the actual coolant. So I'm just going to let that carry on to trickle out. You don't need to drop the oil at this stage, but I will drop the oil later on when I do the actual filter as well. But for now, let's get the head gasket off and we can do that at a later stage. So what I did do was when I took it up the car, as you can see, I took it off this way. When I put it down on a clean piece of cardboard, and I marked B for the back and F for the front. That way when I put it back, I know exactly the way I took it off. So we just make sure it's not going in incorrectly back and front. So when you're taking it up, you got to make sure that the push rods get left behind on there. You don't want to pull them through, because what I'm going to do is I'll show you what we're going to do with a piece of cardboard. We've marked the numbers. So just give me 1 second. Okay, so what I've done is I've marked a piece of cardboard like this with all the cylinder numbers, obviously in this direction. So 1 being the front, 1 being the front, and 8 being the back over here. So what we'll do when we take them up, we're going to put them into the cardboard in that order, so when we put it back again, we know exactly which order to put it back into the car with. So that way we don't mess anything up, and we know that everything is back where it belongs. So that's number 1. So now with a 15mm socket, what we're going to do is we're going to take off the remainder bolts, which are all of these, and then the head should just lift straight up. But obviously don't forget to take off the HT leads as well. So I'm going to do that from the other side now because it's easier to reach those bolts. Remove the HTs, take off those with the 15mm, and then we'll need to take this off as well. So sometimes this can be seized depending on how long it's been in the car and if it's ever been changed, so the thermostat that is. I'm going to give a go at trying to just take it off and see if I can just remove it this way and then use the head. But if not, then I'll need to either remove the pipe and then keep that onto the head as well, and do it when it's off the actual car. But yeah, let's give it a shot, see what happens. Okay, so that thermostat looks like it's seen better days, but I think it's still usable. I'll check it out and see if it sees or not, but yeah, so the gaskets also, that gasket's pretty much had it as well as that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think it was very much worth doing in terms of replacing the head gasket, because the kit comes with all of the actual gaskets that you need on here. So yeah, glad we actually decided to do that in the end. Okay, so yeah, now's the time to move the head out of the way. So obviously this would have been good if I had an extra set of hands. Fortunately I do not, so we're gonna have to try and make this this work and lift this out. So I'm gonna just be gentle with it again, just see if I can get this to come loose. I'm sure if that gasket's been in there for some time, it's gonna give me a little bit of a fight to come out, but let's see what we can do.